Tonight is really a celebration of you, our loyal members, cooperating attorneys, lay leaders, and volunteers. Without you, none of the accomplishments of these last 60 years would have been possible. This year, we note with sadness the untimely passing of our longtime board member, Daniel Scott. We will miss his wisdom and gentle presence. Join me in recognizing our marvelous ACLU staff. Megan Ketchadorian, the assistant to the director. Nicole Cordier, our communications associate. Hannah Stern, our policy associate. All of whom bring such skill and dedication to their work. Thank you so much. And of course, the ACLU would not enjoy the proud legacy we celebrate tonight without the decades-long leadership of our executive director, the extraordinary, the indefatigable Steve Brown. Which brings me nicely to my next point. Yes, we're a staff of only 4 people. We are small, but we are mighty, but only with your support. We have no grants or public funding, and our work is made possible only through your donations and membership dues. We've placed rather conspicuously here, so that you can all view it over your dinner, the panel showing that we are extremely close to our goal of raising $60,000 in our 60th year. We appear to be at $46,242. So, any one of you who is inclined to push us over that top, thank you. Please give generously. You know we need it now more than ever. 60 years ago, the ACLU of Rhode Island filed its first formal case, which secured the release from prison of 2 migrant workers who'd been jailed for 5 months solely because they were material witnesses in a murder case. In the decades following, the ACLU has been a consistent voice for the rights of immigrants. We won a lawsuit against the Wyatt Detention Center for negligence in the death of a detainee. We freed from ICE custody a U.S. citizen, twice detained as a deportable alien, as well as a mother of 2 citizen children who was detained while lawfully attempting to change her immigration status due to marriage. And just a month ago, we filed an amicus brief in a suit which won the release of a man likely to be tortured if returned to his native country. For 60 years, the ACLU has championed the privacy rights of Rhode Islanders. In 1973, immediately after Roe v. Wade, we prevailed in striking down a Rhode Island statute declaring that life begins at conception. A decade later, we successfully challenged another statute requiring husband notification before a married woman could obtain an abortion. And in 2019, after years of tireless lobbying, the ACLU and its many advocacy partners brought about passage of the Reproductive Privacy Act, codifying the protections of Roe v. Wade in Rhode Island law. Time passes and issues change, but the ACLU's steadfast defense of the rights of all Rhode Islanders remains a constant. Here are just a few highlights of our achievements in 2019. In the General Assembly, we lobbied on 339 bills and tracked over 800 pieces of legislation. Demanding equal protection of the laws for all Rhode Islanders, we favorably settled a sex and age discrimination suit on behalf of a Twin River employee who was paid less than a younger male colleague with identical job responsibilities. In defense of First Amendment freedoms, we brought a successful suit on behalf of Rhode Island non-fiction authors who were denied a sales tax exemption available to fiction authors on the grounds that non-fiction works aren't creative and original. And vindicating the due process rights of Rhode Island's neediest residents, we just yesterday filed a motion to dismiss our almost 3-year-old UHIP SNAP lawsuit since the state finally met our demand to maintain a 96% timeliness rate in processing applications for food assistance. In our relentless pursuit of open government, we sued the Pawtucket Police for public access to investigations into police misconduct. In the area of student rights, we forced Woonsocket to adopt a policy protecting the rights of transgender students. And on behalf of prisoners, we brought an action that got the heat at the ACI in the middle of last winter, and we filed a suit challenging the archaic state statute declaring inmates civilly dead for purposes of their civil liberties. These are just some of the many accomplishments of our 60th anniversary year. New challenges arise every day, some of them unimaginable only a few years ago. There is growing and legitimate debate surrounding who wrote this Constitution and for whom it was written. Whatever view you may hold on that controversial topic, or on any of the critical issues we face today, we pledge to do what we alone are committed to do, and do so well: protect your right freely to express that view. With your continued support, the ACLU of Rhode Island will keep fighting to bring relevance and practical effect to the Bill of Rights in the lives of all Rhode Islanders. Thank you. It has been an honor to serve as chair of the board of the ACLU of Rhode Island. I hope you enjoyed that. I did. I'd like to turn the program over now to Carolyn Manis and Christopher Corbett to present the Raymond J. Patine Civil Libertarian Award of the Year.
I'm Carolyn Manis, and I currently practice law in Providence, but I'm also on both the state and national boards of the ACLU. I'm a former staff member. I was the public education coordinator in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I continue to be a volunteer attorney. This is Chris Corbett.
Hi, thank you for introducing me. So I was on the staff at the ACLU. I was Steve's assistant from 1992 to 1997, and been involved here and there since then. I'm glad to be here tonight to introduce our civil libertarians to you. We all know the important role that the staff in a nonprofit organization plays in keeping it running. As you will see on page 11 of the program book, the affiliate also relies on a large number of volunteers. I think that, like the staff, we all also recognize and appreciate the crucial work that volunteer attorneys, students, and other members of the ACLU play in advancing our mission.
But one role in nonprofits, including the ACLU, that is routinely underappreciated is that played by the volunteer boards and their chairs. Your good work as an employee is recognized by pay raises. Your good work as a volunteer attorney is recognized by your colleagues and peers. Your good work as a student volunteer leads to a burnished resume and hopefully a positive job reference. But you really get pats on the back for being on a volunteer board. The two of us speak from experience. We are the only two people who have served in a triple role for the ACLU of Rhode Island. We have been staff members, cooperating attorneys, and board members of the organization.
Serving on and chairing a board is a critical but often thankless role. Reviewing budgets, planning events, hustling tickets to annual dinners. It's often not a lot of fun, but boards of directors are essential to keeping an organization like the ACLU running and in good organizational stead. We're therefore honored to be presenting this year's Civil Libertarian of the Year Award to recognize the many board members and chairpersons who have kept the affiliate strong for 60 years.
So what we have done is we've asked one board chair from each decade to serve as representative of all board chairs and board members of that decade in receiving our award tonight. Our first two recipients, who were law partners together for many years, represent and were key players in the crucial foundation of the affiliate's existence. Our first 2 decades from 1959 to 1979. Working with the affiliate's intrepid founder, Milt Stanzler, both of them helped the ACLU of Rhode Island win a precedent-setting First Amendment court case that went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. But just as importantly, they were extremely active in the affiliate's organizational side, serving in many board roles, including having stints as chair. We are therefore very pleased to present Alan Shine and Richard Zaks the Civil Libertarian of the Year Award, as they represent chairpersons from 1959 to 1969 and 1969 to 1979.
I'm going to warn you, this weighs about 50 pounds, so you may want to put it down before you speak, and you can duke it out to who speaks first.
Well, first, it's remarkable to me to see this room full of so many ACLU supporters. When we started working together at the ACLU, the organization was probably 2 years old, and we would be lucky at an annual meeting to have 100 people. But it was a very different time. We didn't have a staff when we started. Everything was done on a volunteer level. You saw some of the people in that video who were major volunteer, both lawyers and working on policy matters. I think what I take away from this is there are 2, maybe 3 things that I'm most thankful for being able to do at the ACLU. The first is that I'm probably the only person in the room who knew Steve Brown before he worked for the Rhode Island ACLU. I was on possibly, I don't remember anymore, but I was possibly the chair of the committee that recruited, interviewed, and decided, thankfully, to hire him, a decision that has made Rhode Island a much better place and has made the Rhode Island ACLU something that is admired, not just here, but all over the country. The second is that I spent, after I was chair, in decades after the time that I started here, a national board member of the ACLU for more than 40 years. And my experience here with a struggling, very small affiliate, and the fact that for reasons that remain obscure to this day, I was, as a very young person, named the national treasurer of the ACLU. I developed, with help from a committee, and got the national board to approve the policies which make possible an organization like the Rhode Island ACLU now, sharing funds that are raised in ways that allow an affiliate like Rhode Island, which has limited resources, to have enough support coming from the national organization to hire a full staff and to do a vigorous job of promoting and sustaining and enforcing the rights that the ACLU was organized to do. Those are the two things that, for me, were probably the things I'm most thankful I was able to do. I'm sorry that many of the people I worked with are not here, and I'll just tell you one funny story about the movie that you saw from the video from that. At the time that was done, I was actually in New York. The last scene of that, where he's standing in front of a bunch of law books, is a scene that was taken in the law library of the National ACLU in New York. And the executive director there, who was then Ira Glasser, used to take a month off in the summer. And he asked me if I would go while he was away for the summer and make sure that the doors got open, ran. And I went, and I was there when ABC called and said, they tell me that they won't let us film in the law library unless you say it's okay. I said it was okay, and you saw the video. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Richard. Richard and I were partners, legal partners, and had the great opportunity in the early 60s to initiate an expansive growth of the Rhode Island American Civil Liberties Union. When we got out of law school, we were interested in serving as volunteer lawyers, and with a number of other people who were interning in law firms for the first summer after law school, I raised the question of whether anybody wanted to be a volunteer lawyer with the ACLU, and 6 or 8 of our contemporaries said, well, sign me up. I called the ACLU, and the secretary answered and said, hold on. And everybody got on the phone and said, oh, I want some membership applications. I've got some friends we'd like to join and do some work. We love constitutional law. And they said, well, come right over this office in industrial. It was then the Industrial Trust Building, if some of you may remember that. And I walked into the office that was actually, at that time, the office of Milton Stanzler and his partner, Julius Michelson, later to be an Attorney General of the state of Rhode Island. And Mr. Stanzler came out with a big grin saying, I understand you want something for the ACLU? I said, yeah. I introduced myself, and I said, I've got a couple of friends. We're just interning. We'd like to do some work for the ACLU. I just want to pick up some membership applications. He said, okay. He said, what do you want? I said, and he started to roll and laugh and raucous. I thought he was going to be hysterical. He couldn't stop laughing. He said, wait a minute. And he went into the other office, and he said, come out here, Julie Michelson, Attorney General to be. He came out, this man, and he introduced me. He said, he wants 10 membership applications. I said, well, what's the problem? Why, these people want to work. He said, you know how many members we have? You're looking at 2/3 of the membership of the ACLU in Rhode Island. From that day to what I see and what you see on those brochures, you've come a long way, baby. 6,100 members, okay? The only other thing I want to say is very briefly about two cases that we were familiar with the ACLU in Rhode Island. As has been said many times, every case that the ACLU takes and moves to protect civil liberties, civil rights, is an important case. Every case that they take. Some cases have far greater reach than many other cases. Some cases have national reach, and some cases have extraordinary national reach. I had the great privilege and opportunity to work with Milton Stanzler in the late 70s, at a period of time in which Catholic parochial schools in Rhode Island and all over America were being depleted of students, unable to raise funds, schools were being closed around the country to the Catholic school system, horrible numbers. Attempts were made and legislation was introduced in most states, including Rhode Island, to provide some sort of, quote, tuition aid, by which taxpayers' money would be used to provide tuition for students to go to a parochial school, whether the Hebrew day school or the Catholic school or a Protestant, whatever, to a parochial school. And your ACLU felt that that constituted a violation of the separation of church and state that's set forth in the First Amendment and the Bill of Rights. And we took a case before a three-judge court, including the man for whom this award is named for, Honorable Judge Patine, who was a federal judge in Rhode Island at the time. And he led a three-judge court and declared the Rhode Island statute unconstitutional. There was a direct appeal to the United States Supreme Court, as indicated in your album here, your report. That was the first case that Rhode Island ACLU ever had in the United States Supreme Court. We argued it was a lawyer's dream to go to the United States Supreme Court and participate in a momentous case that involved billions of dollars of taxpayers' money throughout the country. Unfortunately, we got a decision invalidating that statute, and that ruling has, in effect, around the country and made the law for a long time in connection with taxpayer money being used for parole. Another case I did not have anything to do with, but I think is worth mentioning because of its wide ramifications. There is a lady here tonight, Lynette Labinger, who is an ACLU attorney, took a case of some young women at Brown University who felt that their sports teams were not being funded properly or adequately. And there was a statute called Title IX the federal Congress had passed requiring comparable expenditures for not based on discrimination between the genders. And Lynette took that case, and before Judge Patine got a ruling that the plaintiffs were entitled to the relief that they sought, and got orders requiring Brown to equalize male students' expenditure. And that ruling became the landmark ruling for all women's sports in the United States of America. And I cannot look at the Women's Soccer Cup Championship without thinking of that case. And I cannot look at the Providence Journal, pictures of young women with goggles playing lacrosse or soccer without thinking of that decision. And that has had, obviously, momentous effect on all females, sports and otherwise. And if Lynette is still here, I'd like her to stand up. Please stand so people can see you. Please have her stand up. Thank you very much. I appreciate this award, and thanks to all of you. Keep up the good work.
You're next.
Our next two recipients, Tom Ramsby and Vivian Wiseman, also share a lot in common. They both became active in the affiliate through its church-state committee, and they both had the distinction of being directly involved as non-lawyers in ACLU of Rhode Island litigation, challenging government-sponsored nativity scenes. Vivian as a plaintiff, and Tom as an expert witness. But as evidenced by their role as each serving as affiliate chairs for 3 years, they brought a lot more to the organization and helped the affiliate continue its growth during its middle years. Please join us in thanking Vivian and Tom as representative chairpersons for 1979 to 1989 and 1989 to 1999. Very heavy, so we want to put it down.
Okay, thank you. Very well.
You going to say a few words? Sure. Okay.
It's good to be in such surroundings and watching what you're doing, as I have for many years. And my role has been kind of in the background, and but I have enjoyed it, and I've been able to, as most of us had, some good feeling that comes from winning one of those battles once in a while.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Sit back down here.
It's just a pleasure to see so many people here tonight that I've worked with over the years, helping this organization grow and prosper. And I have to say, among the best things I ever did was, along with Jonathan Lubin, helping Steve to find staff. And I remember interviewing Carolyn and Chris in turn. And as you can see, they're still contributing to our organization. It is It's really been among the highlights of my life to be able to be active in so many different ways, helping, just with, the committee work and the board work over the years, serving on the national board as our affiliates rep for several years. That was really challenging, right? And being able to work with so many wonderful, like-minded people and struggling to make our state really live up to its promise of bringing the Bill of Rights to fruition. So I thank all of you for your continued support and for all of your help in making all this happen.
And I'm sure all of you remember the famous case of Lee versus Weissman, and for which we also had national attention and had a U.S. Supreme Court decision in our favor. If it wasn't for the Wisemans, who were willing to come forward and stop school prayer at graduations, who knows what our country would look like today. And it's for that reason that we've been so successful, and we feel the impact of the Rhode Island affiliate across the country.
Thank you, Vivian.
Thanks, Vivian. Finally, our last 2 decades, we are very pleased to recognize Johns Blakesley and Cherie Cruz. They have both been around as chairs to guide the affiliate through extremely dangerous national times. John was chair a few years immediately following 9/11, and Cherie getting to guide the board when our country's current national civil liberties nightmare got inaugurated. I hope you'll agree with me in saying that throughout these more recent turbulent times, the ACLU of Rhode Island, thanks to board chairs like John and Cherie, we've kept our mission focused, kept a steady course, and proactively fought against the dangerous political riptides we were facing. Please welcome to the podium both John and Cherie as representative chairpersons for the years of 1999 to 2009 and 2009 to 2019.
Put it down.
Thank you. On behalf of the board people, board persons, and the chairs from the first decade of the new millennium, thank you very much for this award. I am honored and privileged to be associated with this organization and this importance of our mission. And I'll tell you that it is the company that I keep that has kept me coming back through the door year after year. The board members that I've associated with have been inspiring, dedicated, and they have a great sense of humor, and I've kept very good company. Here's to them. Thank you.